You're listening to The Signal Daily. Hello, I'm Manaswini, your host for the Signal Daily podcast. This is the episode for 27th May 2024. In today's episode, we are talking about dating apps yet again. But this time, numbers show that women are feeling the quote-unquote burnout. And for our main story, we talk about the rise of Chinese study apps in the US. Stay tuned till the end to learn the details of both stories. They swiped right on finding love, but now they are swiping left on dating apps altogether. The romance has officially fizzled out. Dating giants like Tinder and Bumble are facing an existential crisis as female users become disillusioned with online matchmaking. Surveys show a staggering gender disparity, with 47% of British men aged 18 to 34 using dating apps compared to just 25% of women in the same age bracket. And essentially, when the ladies check out, it's a death knell for the platforms. In fact, the stakes are quite high at the moment. Match Group's value has plummeted over $40 billion, while Bumble's fell $18 billion as investors flee the struggling sector. Paid Tinder subscribers dipped under 10 million last quarter amid 6 straight quarters of decline. So what are the apps doing? Well, the apps are pulling out all the stops to win back female users suffering from burnout. Bumble even sparked outrage with a cringe-worthy ad campaign where it basically told women not to take a vow of celibacy, which predictably backfired. And Tinder aims to streamline the getting started process for female users with AI photo curation and better profile quality. Additionally, Bumble is also rethinking its core women-first approach by now allowing both genders to start the conversation. But just adding AI features and tweaking a thing or two isn't going to be enough. The bigger play here is also to make the apps feel safer and less toxically masculine. So what's needed is more human moderators, stricter ID verification to weed out catfishers, and new features letting women take the lead on conversations. But I wonder if slick AI upgrades, ramped up safety protocols, and an overt feminine rebrand can resuscitate the fading allure of dating apps. Or are we just too tired for the swiping era? That only time will tell, but one thing's for certain, the fates of these apps rest in the hands of us women. For our second segment, we are going to bring you deep dives on stories from the world of technology, business, policy, and anything that leaves you with food for thought. The US government can try to get rid of TikTok, but Chinese apps seem to keep popping up anyway. As American education pivots towards AI learning, the two most popular AI tutor apps in the country, Question AI and Goth, are both Chinese-owned. Question AI is the brainchild of the founders of a Beijing-headquartered startup, which, as per TechCrunch, has raised around $3 billion in equity over the past decade. This is essentially a homework helper app that assists kids with maths and science and other subjects. And the other one, Goth, actually has a ByteDance connection, much like TikTok. This AI learning app was launched by a ByteDance subsidiary in 2019. But get this, Question AI has been downloaded 6 million times across Apple's App Store and Google Play Store in the US, while its rival Goth was the second most downloaded education app after Duolingo on Apple's App Store by April 2024. Goth is also popular in Canada and the Philippines. And as the TechCrunch report points out, both are published in the US by Singaporean entities. Now, setting up the base in Singapore has become a common move by Chinese tech companies. Amid rising geopolitical tensions between the US and China, generally Chinese tech firms have gotten a bad rep in the West over suspicions of their relations with the government and the People's Liberation Army. So registering in Singapore sort of helps them evade scrutiny and makes it easier to get listed in the US. This is what some people are calling Singapore washing. In fact, by 2022, as many as 500 companies, including the fast fashion retailer company Shein, infamous for its cheap knockoffs, had secretly re-domiciled to Singapore, according to an FT report. But this is only an estimation, as the exact number of Chinese companies being re-domiciled to Singapore is unclear because Singapore does not disclose the origin country in the public statistics. But obviously, Singapore also benefits from this as it can establish itself as an important financial hub. In 2022, the country also overtook Hong Kong to become Asia's top financial center and third in the world behind New York and London. But I digress. Coming back to study apps, why are so many study apps sprouting in China in the first place is because, well, we have to go back to the start. The private tutoring scene in China is much like India. There's been this culture of private tuition centers or coaching centers because education is a hyper competitive space in the country. In 2021, the Chinese government enforced some regulations to clamp down on these educational shops. So it banned private tuition over weekends and holidays for Chinese students below the age of 16. This was done to bring education reforms, just to reduce too much homework and excessive academic burden on kids, as well as to lower the financial burdens of the parents. Now, the initial impact of this crackdown on edtech was layoffs and companies being driven to bankruptcy. But also, as a Rest of World article points out, AI educational tablets and AI study apps shot up in popularity in China to fill the gap, with tech companies like iFlyTech and Baidu cashing in on the opportunity. And the US is definitely a market that Chinese edtech companies are eyeing because of its size. Their success overseas perhaps highlights the resilience of certain Chinese education technology or edtech firms in the face of Beijing's regulatory crackdowns. Introducing an AI model has helped Chinese apps like Questionnaire and Goth overcome language barriers. Also, AI study app subscriptions are cheaper than tutor fees in some cases. But can AI be trusted with education? Well, the jury is still out on that. If you like listening to The Signal Daily, please show us some support. Rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this podcast. So feel free to shoot an email at hello@thesignal.co. The episode was researched, written and produced by Shorbori and me, Manaswini, edited by Dinesh Narayanan, mastered and mixed by Yash Hirave. You can catch this podcast every morning on Spotify, Amazon Prime Music, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are thesignal.co on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.